What's up, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of the Kingdom Crew podcast. It's so good to be back because we got a lot to talk about, especially today with some roster cuts happening. But first off, I did want to apologize that my quality is not going to be as it usually is because I am using my travel setup, but shouldn't be too big of a deal. But today I'm joined by Lucas Murphy from the Beat of KC and Michael Darcy from KC Sports Report. As always, say what's up, guys.
What's going on?
I think this is honestly the best quality we've ever gotten from you, buddy.
Yeah,
maybe
Josh
you need to
isn't
travel
glitching
more.
Well, let's knock on wood. Someone knock
I was
on
gonna
wood.
say.
Hey, we don't want to knock on wood too much. We know somebody else that did that.
Yeah.
All right,
I
let's
was thinking about that. That was a great
let's-
reference.
let's get to football.
Fantastic reference. For the fans out there listening, I hope you get that reference.
Yeah, honestly. But all that being said, let's get back to football.
Yeah.
So we didn't make an episode after the last preseason game against the Vikings, but I'm sure a lot of that will tie into what we're going to talk about today, which is the first round of the final cut downs for the Chiefs. And Lucas, I know you got the list in front of you, so why don't you tell everyone who all got released today?
So we're looking from Tom Pellisario, NFL Network, reported Devin Key safety, which hurt my heart. Defensive back Zane Anderson from Pellisario and Sam McDowell of the Kansas City Star. We're looking wide receiver Darius Shepard from McDowell, linebacker Amari Cobb from McDowell. It does say that they look to bring Amari back in the practice squad. Wide receiver Dalton Schoen was from Herbie at the Kansas City Star. Also, Damone Harris. Wyatt Miller was all reported by Herbie. Defensive lineman Austin Edwards, which I do think if you guys pay attention at last, which we'll talk about, I liked Austin Edwards. Definitely says
That whole
possible
defensive
practice
line
squad
group-
candidate.
Real quick, Lucas,
Yeah.
that whole defensive line group in that last preseason game that was on the field in the fourth quarter, you knew most of them weren't going to make the team, but I love the effort they put on in that goal line stand they had with Tyler Clark and Damone Harris. I mean, those guys, they put on.
Well, and I think, too, because Michael was there, but the whole entire starting first team ran out to the field in support, and I think that right there just shows you the state of where the Kansas City Chiefs are. I mean, when you got your first teamers running out supporting of those guys, I mean, that's big time.
Sorry, hold on. I know I keep cutting you off before we move on, but I did want to say there was something I saw on Twitter, someone basically saying the same thing. I believe it was Patrick Allen. He tweeted, it's just great to see that the Chiefs have that kind of culture, that championship culture, and some rando in the comments was like, it's not that big of a deal. And it's like, no, like I replied to the dude, like, I've been a Chiefs fan my whole life. We've all been Chiefs fans our whole lives. And there's just a different feeling with this organization where they're at. Like right now, like you don't know what you have until it's gone. So it's a great time to be a Chiefs fan. Don't take this for granted. But, I mean, there's zero dysfunction between owner, GM, coach. All the players are bought in. You don't see any of the Chiefs players holding out from contracts. None of these guys are getting in a fight in camp. I mean, it's just amazing.
Yeah.
I mean, it's almost like the trifecta. You know how hard it is to get the quarterback, let alone the quarterback, but a great head coach and a general manager and an owner all working together. It's just like you said, we don't really understand how good we have it right now, that we have everything in place. Literally everything is in place. And I think it's going to lead to a lot of success this year. But Lucas, continue with the cut players.
For sure. Maurice French. Per McDowell, Derek Gore, which, you know, I think I was surprised to see. I mean, I was surprised to see it before Darwin, but I think for me, it was the outcry for like, why did this happen? And I'm sure we're going to talk about it, but you know, Derek Gore, per McDowell, running back Darwin Thompson, per McDowell, and the final one was a lot of people got confused. Was Darrell Williams, the offensive lineman? They labeled him as a center, not the Darrell Williams that runs the rock. So those are the ones that have been official. I know that there were some other things floating out there through Twitter where we're seeing some other people already being thrown in the mix. These are the ones that are official and per those people that I listed.
Yeah, so I think some of the biggest names on there. I think the two running backs that got released today. So Darwin Thompson and Derek Gore. I'm kind of somewhat surprised that both of them got cut because I was kind of latching on to the idea that maybe they keep one of those guys. I would have preferred Gore, but and Gore had a great preseason, and I think Darwin he's shown that he has the ability to be a player in this league, and I hope he lands on his feet somewhere else because I don't think he comes back to the practice squad. I think this is where the Chiefs fully move on. I could totally see Derek Gore going to the practice squad though because he's a newer face. The Chiefs have seen him in their organization now, and maybe they like what they saw in preseason. I know we all liked what we saw in preseason from Gore. That guy was a beast in that last preseason game too, and Andy Reid already says the dude runs like Gale Sayers, but I think Gore's definitely a practice squad candidate. I think Thompson's probably gone, but what do you guys think?
I'll go first. First of all, I was at that game Friday night at Arrowhead Stadium, and there was 2 times, and a lot of people are like, "Oh, if you don't get up off your feet off of every great thing that happens in a Chiefs game, you're not a Chiefs fan." I was cheering when Patrick Mahomes hit hit Tyreek Hill for the touchdown over Bashaud Breeland. And I was cheering when all that happened, but there was 2 times in the game where I left my feet. The first one was the goal line stand. I actually don't know if they were in the correct order, but the goal line stand was one of them in the fourth quarter with the backups. And when Derek Gore caught that little dump off pass and took it to the house, that had the crowd rocking. So honestly, I was kind of surprised that he got cut. I thought that maybe they carried him as a 4th running back on this team. I kind of had the mentality right now, though, that they're really confident, I guess, in Michael Burton, who's going to make this team. I'd be surprised if they cut him. So I guess Michael Burton's that 4th running back. But, I think that he'll probably land on the practice squad. That is in Gore. But Darwin Thompson, I think we all kind of expected him to get cut. I wish that he didn't. Darwin Thompson's a guy that you just want to cheer for because in training camp, even though we had a rough training camp from what I saw, he was always staying late after practice. He was on the jugs machine every day, the last one to leave, and he was always running sprints up the hill. So it's just like a guy with that mentality and work ethic. It's really hard to root against them. And like you said, he's going to land somewhere. And I think that honestly, it's just kind of a wrong place at the right time because if the Chiefs didn't draft Clyde and the Chiefs didn't have some of the other guys that they had ahead of him, he's probably going to get a lot more snaps on this team, and he probably would still be a member of the Kansas City Chiefs. That's kind of how I feel about that. But none of those players really really surprised me. But I will say, not to shift the topic completely, that right now, according to people on Twitter, which you got to take everything from Twitter that's unofficial with a grain of salt, Cornell Powell is a guy that could get released. And I would be very surprised if that happens. But what are your thoughts on that situation?
I'm honestly I'm not surprised by either running back just because I think if we're
yeah, and I agree with you because I know what you're about to say. If we want to carry some of these other guys at like the pass catcher positions, got to compensate for it somewhere. So
that's my take, and I definitely think that they need to keep one of them 100% for sure, actually 110% for sure on the practice squad because we know that every running back that is listed as on that's going to make the roster has been injured in some point. I mean, Clyde, obviously, with his groin. We know that he's had ankle issues. We know that Darryl has had concussion and some other issues. And we know McKinnon has had back and knee replacement. So we know that they're injury prone. And, I mean, they're the battering rams when it comes to running the football. So their injuries will happen. So having a guy like Derek Gore there, I mean, we've seen it before with the Kansas City Chiefs. I mean, a few years ago we had who were those two, the duo that we assembled and ran for Alex Smith for a while?
Charkandrick West and Spencer Ware.
Exactly. Yeah. So, I mean, Gore is not necessarily those guys, but that type of, I mean, he's going to fit that role. So I do think eventually we will see Derek Gore at some point in this season just because but I think Darwin is officially gone, just my thoughts. I think Derek Gore could probably provide you what he could on special teams if that's the case. But yeah, nothing really so far. I think if I had to pick one that I would say really kind of shocked me a little bit was Amari Cobb, just because I think we do need a little bit of depth at the linebacker position. But then that just tells you that Dorian O'Daniel is going to make this squad. So, but yeah, I think we're going to start really seeing some things go in place, and it'll be interesting to see when we finally get to that 53 tomorrow.
Well, I have a feeling really quickly. I have a feeling Dorian O'Daniel is one of Dave Tobe's special guys. I just have that feeling.
Who's that?
Dorian O'Daniel, I feel like, is Dave Tobe's guy.
Yeah. I mean, you want solid guys, and if he truly is that good, I mean, then yeah, I'd be okay with it because he can probably fill a role on the defense when need be. So,
well, I will say that. And receiver is probably the position I think we all got our eyes on tomorrow. I think that's going to be one of the most interesting ones when it comes to cuts. But I will say real quick before we get into that one of the other players that was released today, Zane Anderson, thought he had a chance to make his way onto the roster, especially because he got some runs with some of the first and second teams in training camp and preseason. But I definitely think he's another guy that you'll probably see on the practice squad. And Lucas, I know we were all joking about it before we started recording. It seems like a lot of people want their guy on the practice squad, and at some point you have to acknowledge there's only so many practice squad spots, so you can't have like.
It's funny because we said that, and then I'm reading after every one of these as I'm going through. It's like, would be a great practice squad candidate, would be a great practice target, would be a great practice squad candidate. And I'm like, not every one of these sons of guns are going to make the practice squad. Like, what is going on here?
Yeah, like they're going to have to let go of some guys, and that's just the harsh reality.
Well, and here's my thing, too, with this whole entire situation. We don't know. I mean, we as people reporting on this do not know what is going to get cut out there. Like tomorrow, we have to get down to 53. There might be a hell of a player that gets cut from another team, and then that's where you're going to see those guys like DeMarcus Robinson on the bubble, or you're going to see maybe another player like Dorian O'Daniel who is a special teams guru but doesn't really truly provide something else that may be like, hey, we're going to cut Dorian because this guy appeared, and so or a trade happened. So I really think that there's going to be a lot more. It's just going to be who gets cut from other teams and really what the Chiefs are even interested in.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And speaking of trades real quick, sorry, I keep pushing off the wide receiver talk, but you did mention, Lucas, right before we started recording that Yasir Durant got traded for a 7th rounder to the Patriots. And I'm kind of surprised by that because I think the Chiefs really liked Yasir Durant, especially considering the fact he made the team last year as a UDFA. And as a Missouri fan, I am fond of Yasir Durant. Also thought he had some decent tape last year. But, I mean, that's just what you're going to have to expect. Some of those higher upside guys maybe get cut because there's just so much depth on this team now. And then Michael mentioned it too. Yasir Durant, undrafted free agent, and you now get a 7th round asset for him. So that's pretty good. I mean, that's the Brett Veach special right there.
I'm okay with that. I really am. I think, and some of the guys like Wyatt Miller, I think he would be definitely a consideration. He's, again, candidate for practice squad. But I think we saw a decent amount from Wyatt Miller that if he goes to the practice squad and continues to get better and play against this defensive line that we have, I think he's something that you would have to consider at some point down the road if he can hold on to make this team at some point in the future, just because, what he provides. So Yasir Durant, and, we've heard some other rumors, like I know a lot today was LDTs in the rumor mill. So I would not be surprised if we see another offensive lineman go by tomorrow.
Oh, absolutely. I think, and someone I think is likely to get traded from that group because there's a lot of guys on this offensive line that can absolutely play and they can maybe start for another team. And LDT, I think, is a capable starter for a team that's in need of offensive line depth at the guard position. So I'm willing to bet that someone else goes from this group, and it's through trade.
Most definitely.
Unless it's a fantastic trade in which you get like a 3rd or 4th round pick for LDT, like why would I don't because you don't gain anything from cutting him. And I think that if anyone's to go, I would rather have Kyle Long get shipped out than LDT, because LDT can play at a high level. He can be a backup, and at least he's going to be a more consistent dude. I think Kyle Long might have more upside, but the problem is you got to worry about him getting injured in like week 3 and missing 8 or 9 games. So it's just go ahead.
I will push back a little bit, because as much as we all love LDT, his play did fall off those last couple years before he opted out. I think Kyle Long, I think the Chiefs value the possibility of getting 80% of good Kyle Long. And yeah, you got to worry about Kyle Long and his injuries, but honestly, LDT, he's got this broken hand. He had the broken leg in 2018. He's no spring chicken himself. And I think at that point, the Chiefs are saying, well, which one of these guys, when they're healthy, gives us the best play? And I think it's Kyle Long by a pretty high margin.
I think that's going to be something that they're going to look at for cuts as well, as crazy as that sounds. I do think that they're going to be looking to just really solidify the offensive line.
And hold on real quick, Lucas. I want to clear this up before any fans go crazy in the comments. Could we even trade Kyle Long because he's on the PUP? I don't even know if he's trade eligible.
I don't think so.
Yeah, I'm not 100% sure on that. I know that he's going to be out. If we decide to put him on there, he's going to be out for a longer stretch, unless we put him on the active roster, then put him on there.
Yeah.
So I know that, but I don't know if we trade him now or if that's even a possibility, because he's on the pup. But yeah, it's just there's so much. I mean, there's so much. This is like such an incredible time to be really trying to figure this stuff out, just because there really are. I mean, how many times have we done this? And there's been different times where we're like, yeah, this could be a possibility. And then we're like, we change it the next time just because something else could happen. I mean, there's so much that, and I think that's the unique thing about this whole thing too, is like, are they going to keep 4 tight ends? Are they going to keep 6 receivers? I thought Devin Key would make it just because I thought it was a way for him to potentially learn and develop, because there's nothing that says he has to. But then we're seeing Armani Watts come on. So there's so much that's going on that, are they going to run five safeties and be able to run limited on that? Or is that something that they're looking to add to pair with Juan Thornhill, Dan Sorensen, and the Honey Badger? Like, what are they going to look to add another? I mean, there's so many things that are going on. I mean, we'll dive into more, but like, just me looking at this from the grand scheme of things, it's like, there's still, like, yes, we're seeing these cuts that we just talked about, but there's still so much more that needs to happen tomorrow that it's just going to be like, man, this is going to be crazy.
Yeah.
Yeah. Michael, anything you wanted to add to that?
No.
All right. Well, that being said, let's finally talk about the receivers, because I've been looking forward to this. I think today, remind me, I know Maurice French got released, but Darius Shepard, he was the other wide receiver.
And
Dalton Schoen.
Dalton Shen. Okay, yeah. I didn't expect much from all 3 of those guys. I will say though, Maurice French is a guy that I had a little bit higher hopes for. I know he was one of the more intriguing practice squad players for the last year or so. So we'll see if he hooks back onto the practice squad. But honestly, I think the Chiefs might be moving on. We'll have to see. But I think it's getting really interesting now, because all 3, I think really the focus is on those last 3, which are Marcus Kemp, Darvise Fountain, and Cornell Powell. And I'm just going to stick by what I've been saying. I think they find a way to keep both Fountain and Kemp. I think both of them have shown too much. You can't justify cutting them. And I think Cornell Powell's out of here. And Michael, I know you have been hard on your stance that you don't see Powell getting cut, but I think we're slowly starting to see more Chiefs fans come to the side of, yeah, he's probably gone. But what do you think?
I just, again, I can't see him going. I mean, I can see him going. I'd be kind of surprised though. I just think that though it is unfortunate, I feel like Cornell Powell being drafted in the 5th round and having I'd say he's got a lot of upside. I mean,
he still does. Yeah. And that's the thing, Michael, is I will not disagree with you that he has a lot of upside, and I loved his traits coming out of college, but It's just something that he's going to need time to develop at the NFL level. And I just don't think the Chiefs are in a position where they can give this guy time to develop on the main roster. If he's going to do it, he has to do it on the practice squad. And some are going to say, well, he might not make it to the practice squad if you release him. Well, that's just the position the Chiefs are in right now.
Yeah, I think I could honestly see Kemp getting snubbed for Powell to make the roster.
How about this? Let me bring up a scenario.
Okay.
What is the likelihood that the Chiefs find a trade partner for Cornell Powell by tomorrow?
Not high. I think if you did trade him, you'd get what, a seventh? I mean, you're not going to get the fifth back.
No, you're not, but you could maybe get an asset.
I think that NFL teams have been through this enough that they know that he's on the bubble, and if they really want him, they'll just wait out, and then he'll get waived.
Yeah, that's
and then
true
you claim him.
Yeah.
But then you get exclusive rights to guys, kind of like how the Chiefs got Mike Hughes. I think most teams knew Mike Hughes was probably going to get dumped by the Vikings, but the Chiefs are like, well, hey, if we just do a late-round pick swap, we'll take him for you so we can have his rights and no one else has a chance to get him. So maybe it's a scenario like that too. But, I mean, heck, we did see Sean Wade even go for a late-round draft pick, and Sean Wade is Cornell Powell's son.
Yeah, especially in the championship game, wasn't it?
It was the first round of the college football playoff, I believe.
He cooked him like stir fry.
Yeah, he did.
I mean, yeah, dude, Cornell Powell, like, he's got the route running. But, someone was telling me, or someone was talking about it, how Cornell Powell was never the go-to guy at Clemson. And so, and it wasn't even because, I mean, I think he was there. He was there for Deshaun and he was there for Trevor Lawrence. And I remember, was it Amari Rogers was ahead of him too? But
yeah,
there was another guy also.
T. Higgins.
Justin Ross.
It's just like he was never, ever the go-to guy or even like the second target. So it's just like,
see, and that's what I'm starting to like bring up to, like when I made a video about it, I'm like, well, he never really was, like you said, Michael, a go-to guy there. And Chiefs fans are taking this guy who is like the second or third receiver at best on a Clemson team, and we're expecting him to be this instant impact player in the NFL. And that's just not how these draft picks work.
yeah.
I think that they expect a lot more because those types of programs are more professional driven, like they're more ready to be, and so I think that's why it's a little bit more acceptable to take a Cornell Powell in the fifth versus maybe someone who plays, I don't know, some
at Rice or Buffalo.
Yeah, someone like that who, I just think that that's why it was a good flyer and it just didn't potentially work out. Or, I mean, we're truly seeing, how long has Fortson been on the practice squad for the Chiefs? At least 2 years, correct? And so someone who's been within the organization, and I'm just using Fortson as an example because he was a receiver, then tight end, receiver, tight end. He's been through the organization and been on the practice squad enough to like understand what he needs to do to make it. Cornell Powell's coming into this fresh, man. Like he just got to figure it out. And who's to say that he doesn't go to the practice squad for the whole year? Or even just go to the practice squad for a certain amount of time, and then we see him pop up because maybe Marcus Kim isn't performing the way they wanted, and he goes down to the practice squad or is released, and then we see Cornell Powell on this team at some point anyway. So I think we're just talking about the in time. I mean, that's obviously what we're doing, but the now could be different than maybe 5 weeks from now when when the season starts.
Well, I did see a couple people say on the comments for my Cornell Powell video, maybe he's a mystery IR candidate, but the issue with that is, you can exaggerate injuries a little bit and put those guys on IR to stash them, but the problem is you can't straight up fake an injury. And Andy Reid did say after the last preseason game that there are no new injuries to report. So to say that there's no new injuries after that Vikings game, and then to say Cornell Powell is now injured bad enough to be on IR when they haven't played any games, that you can't do that.
Yeah, I think he's either going to make it or they had every intention of him not making it because of there's something that they saw because he just was not getting his opportunities in any preseason game.
Yeah, I mean, it was late in games. He disappeared, like he just nothing, like, and that's why I think he's not going to make the team is because these other guys that I'm excited about, like Kemp or Fountain, and really, I'm not overly impressed with Kemp, to be honest, because Kemp is another one of those guys he's been with the team for a while now, and at some point you got to show something. Now I know Marcus Kemp is one of those special teams guys, probably one of the best special teamers on this team over the past couple of years. But from a receiver standpoint, like at some point you have to show something. Now I do think he showed something this preseason, which is again why I don't think Cornell Powell makes it, because I mean these guys, they've earned their spot, and no matter what your draft status is, no matter how long you've been in the league, the Chiefs gave all three of these guys a chance, and two of those guys showed that they deserve to make the team, and one of them didn't. And I am starting to get a little bit nervous about Darius Fountain, because there's a possibility they only keep 5, and if they keep 6, I don't know if it's going to be Fountain, because Fountain did have a couple drops in that game. Now I don't think they were completely on him in that last preseason game, but like I said before, if you're UDFA or like a guy that wasn't on the team before that's trying to make the team, you got to be almost perfect if you do want to make the team. And while Darius Fountain did have a nice toe tap catch in that game, he also did have a couple passes maybe he should have caught. So I'm a little bit nervous that maybe he doesn't make it now. And he's another one of those guys that's been in the league for a couple years for a reason and hasn't quite caught on yet.
I think they value his size more than they would a Marcus Kemp. I mean, we saw and Darcy can attest to this, because Kemp made a pretty tremendous catch to score that touchdown.
Now, okay, I will say 1 second, and now I'm starting to see why you guys are upset that Buechele got the call over Anthony Gordon, because I was frustrated when Marcus Kemp got a perfect pass to the end zone in that game. Now, I shouldn't be upset that we scored a touchdown and Marcus Kemp looked good, but I was like, man, Buechele's making Fountain and Fortson look bad, because there was one play too where Fortson stretched out for a ball, but it was just like not in the right place at all. And I'm like, man, Buechele, you're out here making my guys that I've been pulling for look bad, and then you have a perfect pass to Marcus Kemp in the end zone.
Don't forget the great fourth and goal stand, and then he just turns around and throws a pick 6. Actually, it was a pick 6. Like, yeah, I'm not a Buechele fan. I don't think he's that good. But
I don't either, and a lot of people are high on him. I think he should have kept Gordon. I really do. I'd stick to it. And like again, this means absolutely jack squat, just because of Henny's obviously ahead of that person, and then you got the all great number 1 overall in top 100 in Patrick Mahomes. But
finally he makes it. Can we just appreciate that for a second? Finally they recognize he's the best player in the league. Took a few years, but
I'm okay with though. I like him being the underdog, and it means nothing. Again, another thing that just means nothing. But I think it's better when he's not number 1, because it's like a chip on his shoulder in a way. Because then we get the Mahomes that's running to the sidelines doing that type of stuff, and I just think it's good when he's not given that. But I think he deserves it most definitely. But I still think that he has a chip when he's not. But
of course, yeah.
I still think he's got a lot this year. We had that conversation. I'm not trying to get off on a tangent, but we had the conversation last time, I think it was, or the time before that, where we were like, how many touchdowns, yardage, and things like that. More and more people are climbing on board that he's going to break Manning's record.
Yeah, I'm not going to say anything. All I'm going to say is I'm going to have a video coming out probably at some point next week. It's going to give my stance on not only Mahomes, but like another one coming out on just the state of the team, because this is the best Chiefs team we've ever seen. I'll say right now.
I don't think they're done making moves. I think we do see some. I've seen some pretty significant people on Twitter who are very connected to this team say that there's still a trade for a receiver that could happen.
I would be so excited if they can get even just a mid-level receiver that just makes me feel more confident in this receiver room.
So while we're on that, Josh, who would that be though? Because that's what I've been wanting. I've been trying to find out, because for me, it's if they cut so and so. Well, who is so and so that we would be like, we want that guy? So just give me an example of a name. Like, it doesn't have to be something that happened, but who would be your guy that could fit into that number 2 that is just like that person?
So now that you ask, I have a really interesting name for this because I'm kind of in the same boat as you, Lucas. Like I have a hard time figuring out like who it would be. But if there's just one guy I could think of that would just make a lot of sense. I look at the New York Giants. They got Kadarius Toney. They got Darius Slayton. They got Kenny Galladay. They got Kyle Rudolph now. They got Sterling Shepard still there. I'm looking at Sterling Shepard. I think Sterling Shepard is a guy maybe the Giants don't quite value like they once did that could slide into a nice little role on the Chiefs, to be honest.
Yeah.
Give him Cornell Powell or give him a couple different assets.
Here's where LDT comes into play. The Giants badly need offensive line help. Maybe an LDT for Sterling Shepard's swap.
See, and that's where I kind of envision like a potential trade to like the Eagles for some reason. I think you could probably pry one of their like receivers off of them too, or even maybe like as crazy as it sounds, maybe Blake Bell goes and then you go and make that simple trade for Zach Ertz. Because Zach Ertz has been
Zach Ertz
because he's been talking about getting out of there. They don't want. I mean, he's passed by Dallas Goedert. I mean, could you imagine Travis Kelce, Zach Ertz, and my guy Noah Gray, and then obviously you're talking Jody Fortson too. Holy smokes!
Yeah, that would be a heck of a tight end room. Even though Ertz maybe is on the downside of his career, I mean, you still have to take those guys seriously that have been, the top of their position. A guy like Zach Ertz.
Yeah, I mean, there's so many. I mean, for me, it's that group down in Miami. They have like 7 to 8 receivers, like a Jakeem Grant that is down there that could potentially get cut. That I feel is kind of low key, pretty solid.
Or bring Albert Wilson home. Just saying.
We got him and Marcus Kemp. That was going to be my comp. I think Marcus Kemp is Albert Wilson.
You think so?
Yeah, I think if you're going to keep Marcus Kemp, you're ideally you got Albert Wilson, and that's exactly his playing style. And I think you got that already.
They even got the hair flowing out of the back of the helmet.
Yep, you got it. I think there's so many that's what I'm excited for tomorrow, because I think we're going to be able to kind of culminate and get groups of people together that were like, hey, the Chiefs might actually be interested in that person. I mean, another thing to honestly consider is what they do in Denver. Denver's loaded with receivers too, and who's to say that they don't cut it I don't think it happens, because Tim Patrick was incredible when Cortland Sutton was out, but I mean, Tim Patrick's there. I mean, there's some other guys.
Well, and real quick, Lucas, they did release their 6th-round rookie today, Seth Williams, who I know a lot of guys liked, and he definitely fits the speed theme. If the Chiefs were interested in maybe bringing in a guy like Seth Williams.
Is that the one from Auburn?
Yeah.
I liked him. I was hoping, honestly, that was my draft pick. So, yeah, that would be very interesting, too. He was way better than Cornell Powell, and I don't mean that just because. If you go back and watch his tape, he was way better than Cornell Powell.
Going into the offseason, I wanted to try to get Emmanuel Sanders. He always flies under the radar, and he's always been he's probably your number 3, but still.
I hold a grudge against him because of what he did to us.
Yeah, well, and he retired too. Am I wrong on that?
No,
he's with Buffalo.
Oh, it was Demaryius Thomas who retired.
Yeah.
My bad.
Yeah, he's in Buffalo. He replaced John Brown.
That's right. Yeah, that's
and correct. John Brown went to the Raiders.
Yeah, I'm not gonna lie. I don't want to get attacked. I kind of like what the Raiders did this offseason.
In what aspect?
I think they did make strides to improve their defense, and I think they have a few underrated moves on offense, such as like Kenyon Drake. I think he's a decent running back that gives them another weapon. I do like John Brown still. I kind of like what the Raiders did this offseason.
Because they got Edwards from South Carolina. That guy's a stud. I think he finally has a breakout
they made
year.
A sneaky good move the other day when they traded for Denzel Perryman. He's definitely a boost to their linebacker core. They should be getting Corey Littleton back healthy.
Littleton's a tackling machine.
Yeah, so I'm not going to lie. I kind of like what the Raiders did.
I still think they finished last in the division, but
they still do.
Yeah.
I think they did take a step in the right direction, though.
Perryman, though, when he was with the Chargers, he always had those crazy injuries. And that's why they ended up eventually drafting Kenneth Murray. And like, it's crazy that he found his way to Carolina. I was hoping they'd stick with him because he slotted in perfectly for like the missing of Kuechly. But it's crazy that they ended up trading him back to the AFC West.
Yeah, no, we kind of go on way off topic here, but I know you did mention back when I mentioned Daurice Fountain that he's a guy that maybe they value his size, and also I've mentioned it before. He's a guy that has crazy good athleticism. Like he can jump really high to get a lot of balls. He took a really big hit in that game against Arizona. Ryan Tracy from RGR Football, and please go check him out if you haven't, or else you don't know what you're doing as a Chiefs fan. But he mentioned that for his analytics for athletic testing, that Daurice Fountain is one of the best, like top 10 athletic profiles that he's seen at the receiver position over the last decade. And two other guys in that group are already on the Chiefs, McCole Hardman and Tyreek Hill. So having that much athleticism at the receiver position, I think, would be awesome when it comes to keeping Daurice Fountain around. And I do think, he dominated most of preseason. I think it would be a crime if they didn't keep him.
Yeah, I don't want to step over Darcy, but I think he could easily be your number 2, honestly. And then you continue to have Hardman line up in the X and, have your other tight ends fill in there when need be. And, you can kick Hardman out, but I think he's big enough and physical enough to do those types of slants and cuts over the middle too, and has the ability to still go deep if he needs to. So I really like him. I think that, and he's definitely a fan favorite. You see it all over social media. You see it at, in other places, like they're excited for him. And so I hope that he performs and continues to do what he does because, this could be big for him.
Mecole Hardman drops too many footballs to be an X receiver. Just saying. Like, I don't know.
If we're really talking about it, we should have had DK Metcalf.
Let's not go down that road again. Let's not.
Or the Niners dude. I can't remember his name off the top of my head. Debo, yeah. But we also could have drafted N'Keal Harry. So all things considered, like
we could still trade for N'Keal Harry.
Gosh. We could also just have me line up at wide receiver. I catch a few more balls than he would. He's faster for sure, but I think I got better hands.
I do want to highlight some of the other positions too that I think could get interesting on cut down day. I think the other one obviously is defensive end. Not even so much the defensive line in general, but I think defensive end. I think pretty much all the tackles are making it besides like Tyler Clark and those guys and even the other one that I'm forgetting that we saw today.
Austin Edwards.
Yeah. Oh. He was more of an edge, though, I think, though. I might be mistaken. But anyways, edge. I think that's the position that we got to watch tomorrow. Is Tim Ward making it? He kind of quieted down in the last preseason game. Alex Okafor, are we sure that the Chiefs value him enough to keep him? I don't know. What are we thinking of the defensive end group here?
Okafor ran with the ones in the third preseason game, so I think he's probably going to make the team. But I think Ward's probably a practice squad bet. He looked good. He had 2 sacks in that game against, I think it was the Niners. But actually the Chiefs are tied with the Niners in the preseason with 12 sacks, which is tied for first. So the edge group did their thing. But I think I saw it in that third preseason game. The emergence of Kando, Mike Dana play with the ones. Like, they have a lot of guys that can step up, which I did not believe coming into this season. So I think that's probably a safe bet, but I think Ward's going to the practice squad, and I think Alex Okafor will make it.
What do you think, Lucas?
So I do want to kind of incorporate the defensive line, like the actual DTs in this, only because do you think that they keep 10 people on that defensive line? Like, is that a realistic number?
I think if they keep 10 on the O-line, which I expect them to, it's probably going to have to be 9 on the D-line. I don't know.
Because if that's the case, then for me, I think Tim Ward doesn't make it. because they already cut Damone Harris. Like Tyler
Where's
Clark,
Darius Harris? He's a linebacker, but where is he?
linebacker. I think, and on that imaginative cut list that we saw today pop up on social media, he was on there. Emmanuel Smith was on there. So some of those linebackers, Amari Cobb has already been cut. So you're really starting to question. And that's why I hope we get to the linebackers, because that to me is where they truly are looking to add in free agency. I really believe that. And I'm not going to go off too much on a tangent, but McKinney was cut today. And McKinney is
Isaiah McKinney?
Bernardrick McKinney, I think is who it is, former Texan.
I'm thinking of.
I think he got cut from the Dolphins. And man, holy smoke! So, but back to the line. I really kind of just wonder, like, are they going to keep 10? Because you got Chris Jones, Alex Okafor, Joshua Kendo. That's 3. Jerron Reed, Tershawn Wharton, Derek Nottie, Kalen Saunders, Frank Clark, Mike Dana, Tim Ward is your 10. So are they going to roll 10 on the D line? Because if they don't, the 9, then you're eliminating Tim Ward.
Yeah, I think so too. I don't know if Tim Ward makes it still. And he was playing late into that preseason game against the Vikings too, which we all know not a great sign if you're going to make the team.
Yeah.
But
I think as this is starting to shape up, I truly do. I still think though, and as crazy as it sounds, I still think the linebacking position is the weakest on this team. And I could be wrong for saying that, but I believe that just because our depth isn't there. Like behind Nick Bolton, Anthony Hitchens, and Willie Gay, you have Dorian O'Daniel, Ben Neiman, and Omari Cobb. Like,
not even Omari Cobb anymore.
Yeah, and so that because he got cut.
Yeah, no, it's scary to think about, because if Bolton or Gay or Hitchens go down, you don't really have a viable replacement behind any of those guys. And like I mentioned before, when I said I didn't want to say it, and if that kind of phantom report that's out there today from Arrowhead Live is true and Willie Gay has turf toe, that is doom for this linebacker core, because they don't have anyone that can replicate Willie Gay on the field. And Willie Gay is another guy that I'm kind of worried about, because he's had a lot of injuries already. And if that happens again at any point throughout the season, and we see Ben Neiman taking up all of Willie Gay's snaps, it's not a good position to be in. And it's unfortunate, considering the Chiefs spent a top 100 pick on linebacker the last 2 years in a row, and it still is a continuous need.
I think they expect Tyrann Mathieu to play up at the line a lot, just like Sorensen last year, slotted in at almost like a robber position, but a lot of looks where he's kind of around where the linebackers are. I think that's kind of what they assume is going to happen, because I think Tyrann Mathieu, I think in his first year with the Chiefs, he ended up playing like more snaps as like a hybrid linebacker than actually as a free safety. So I think that's kind of what they have in mind. But yeah, I personally, I know Ben Neiman's this great story. He came from Iowa. He's a UDFA. He made the team and he was playing in the Super Bowl and all that. But like, he's not good.
Well, I'll tell you what, every time he's on the field, it ain't no great story.
Well, yeah, it's a miracle he's made it this far. But I think Omari Cobb, you saw it in the preseason game. Omari Cobb has got the stuff to be better than Ben Neiman. I think he's already better than Ben Neiman. But Ben Neiman, for whatever reason, always makes this team.
For me, it's because we run so much nickel where you have 2 linebackers on the field. And you're running other sub packages as well where the linebacker isn't. Yes, our true base is 4-3, but a lot of the time, because of the opposing offenses we're facing, we're going to be running a lot of nickel, 5 DBs. So that eliminates one of the linebackers. So in this case, that would explain why they want to run Anthony Hitchens / Willie Gay. And maybe they're not. And Nick Bolton might end up having to step up in Willie Gay's place if he is injured. And I think they might be okay with doing that because, Nick Bolton is a downhill guy. They can plug Ben Neiman in when they need to on those third downs for him to cover. But I think that's why they're potentially okay with it. And I wish that would be one spot that I wish they would address. And that's why I wrote the article on Casey Keenum. Yes, they do have to pay Orlando Brown. Yes, they do have to pay, the Honey Badger. Go trade for freaking Jalen Smith, from the Dallas Cowboys. The guy is getting passed up by broken Leighton Vander Esch. He's getting passed up by Jabril Cox from LSU. They went and drafted Micah Parsons. Jalen Smith has been not playing very much in preseason, whether that's just because they're trying to keep him healthy or they're trying to keep him, whatever the reason is. That dude is 23, 24 years old. They should go make that move and find a way to make that happen because, man, you're filling a spot. But then I can see why, just because you're taking away from the future and things like that. But, man, I just wish they would make a move to solidify this linebacker spot. We know Anthony Hitchens is probably gone.
It doesn't even have to be a Jalen Smith type player, though, either, Lucas. I mean, it can be just like a Damian Wilson caliber player from another team.
Should have brought him back.
Looking to pick up just to solidify the depth. Like, no, don't get me wrong. Jalen Smith on this team, that would be amazing. But it doesn't even have to be a guy like that. Just someone that makes you feel better about the group, because there's a lot of guys that would make you feel better about the group because it's just that thin.
Yeah, I mean, it truly is. Like, it's noticeably like we're fans, but like Dorian O'Daniel, the last time I've actually seen him play linebacker, did he even play linebacker as much in the preseason? I don't know. I didn't hardly see him. I mean, Ben Neiman, obviously, he's out there a lot of the time, but like some of these guys you just never saw. And that's what I think is most frustrating. I mean, again, they run a lot of nickel, but if injuries happen, you have to have depth. And like, these are not depth pieces. These are like hope and praise.
Yeah, absolutely. And it makes you question why the Chiefs maybe haven't given a call to like a KJ Wright type of guy, but it's just me.
Yeah. I mean, he's out there, still out there. So
Didn't he retire though?
No, he's still floating. He said that he either wanted to play for Dallas or he wanted to play for Seattle. So that's probably why
money talks, and Soda's winning championships, and he could do both here if the Chiefs wave a couple $1 million at him.
Yeah, I mean, I agree. I think that, you know, but that leads to the next group, and that's obviously the secondary, because if you do run a lot of nickel, you're going to need more corners and safeties. And so maybe they're going to look for another safety, because as of right now, go ahead.
No. So I keep cutting you off. I feel bad, but I've noticed that Eric Eager from PFF had a tweet today, and I don't think he was fully aware when he tweeted this, but he said he doesn't think the Chiefs' fourth safety is currently on this roster. But I was thinking about it, and I'm like, well, Juan's making it, Tyron's making it, Sorensen's making it, and I think Watts is making it.
Yeah.
But let's just say Watts doesn't make it. Or is it true? Is it what Eric Eager tweeted like accurate? Like, do we think there's a move out there to be made, and maybe the Chiefs, or maybe what he probably meant to say is maybe the Chiefs trade for a safety or something like that, or pick up a safety from another team, and then maybe they carry like one less cornerback. But I definitely think let's just bunch cornerback and safety together. Like, I'll just call them all defensive backs, because I think that's kind of how the Chiefs look at it too, and they view a lot of these guys as kind of positionless. But is there a defensive back out there that maybe they're looking to add?
I hope it's not Richard Sherman. I think Armani Watts would be a great safety on this team. That's just me. But in every game that he's played, and going back to Week 17 last year, he's been good. Like, why isn't he getting more playing time? I don't get it.
Well, he did get burnt by Mike Evans against the Bucs in that middle of the season game, but that was the only time I was really like, oh man, Armani Watts is not doing great. But
I think that for me, the cornerback position is less of concern than the safety spot, and the only reason I say that is just because you got Travarius Ward, Mike Hughes, then you got L'Jarius Sneed, Rashad Fenton, Bo Peep Keys, and DeAndre Baker. I think every one of those makes it. The bubble for me is Bo Peep Keys, which I think that dude has so much to offer. Like, I would hate for him to go potentially get waived just because I think he would get picked up. But I think my concern for the safety spot is if an injury does happen outside of the Honey Badger, James Sorensen, Juan Thornhill, and Armani Watts, who do you got? And that's my thing, is like, if Thornhill does somehow tweak something again, I just don't see them continuously forging Dan Sorensen out there as a star. I just don't see that. That's not his role. And so I feel like they have to get somebody. I don't feel Armani Watts is a starter. I think he's a very, very good depth piece. He can come in and when need be play, but I don't think he's a starter. So
I agree. I just think that he hasn't been getting the depth.
Correct.
Getting like the snaps to be a solid backup.
And I agree with that. I just think that you're going to need somebody else in that safety position, not above the Honey Badger, but more of that free safety, can roam and play center field outside of, because Sorensen, even though it says free safety, let's be real, Dan Sorensen's not a free safety. Like,
no. Juan
Thornhill is a true free safety, and then you don't really have anybody else because Marlon Character's on there, probably going to be one of those that get cut. So, I could see them attacking the free safety spot if a good player pops up, and clearly they didn't believe that in Will Parks because he would still be on this team.
Yeah.
Or
they're just confident in the depth that they have. That could be a possibility.
Which, you know what, Michael? If I had to put money down on any kind of answer, it's probably that one, just because the Chiefs, it always seems like that's the route they go first is internal candidates. They rarely ever go outside the organization in a situation like that because they just I kind of feel like they're a little bit stubborn sometimes. They're just too confident in their own guys, and sometimes it comes back to bite them.
Which, hell, they made it to back-to-back Super Bowls and 3 AFC championship games, so maybe that's a good thing. But
well, then my thing is we're proactive and we're pushing hard for like all these receivers to make it, and then the 4 tight ends. I mean, they have to be able to give and take here and there, and maybe that's the spot they give and take.
It's defensive back specifically has been a spot they've neglected for a long time. Well, I mean, they've been better about it as of recently, but even to this day, like, they don't invest highly in corner at all. And I remember back in 2018, before we trotted out there with Ron Parker and Dan Sorensen as our starting safeties, I was banging the table for Trey Boston. I was like, this dude is a solid starting safety in this league. Your defense, your secondary is terrible. Go get a Trey Boston or an Eric Reed or someone like that to patch up your secondary. They never did it. And I just feel like they've been lucky to get by with their secondary play the past couple of years because it was a very shaky group for a while. It was kind of stable there for a minute with Snead, Breland, Ward kind of when he was doing okay. Also, by the way, Bashard Breeland in that last preseason game, dude, what the heck was that? Maybe I'm kind of happy that we got rid of him. Did we win the Mike Hughes trade?
Tyreek Hill does Tyreek Hill things.
I think that this is me personally. I think that they set that up as like a gimmick. Like, I think before that whole situation happened, I think Breeland's like, I want to do this. I want to take him on. Tyreek Hill's obviously lined up the way he's supposed to, but I think Breeland was like, I want to try this, and just got cooked because he had zero safety help over the top. They should have learned that. Breeland knows that when they played Tampa last year, when Tyreek had like 200 yards in the first half against them. And yeah, I mean, I think that was just like, hey, I want to try to do this. And like most Vikings fans were saying in the comments too, they're like, hey, we'd rather see what he's capable of not doing now in the preseason versus in the regular season. And I think that was just them going at it because they were bantering on Twitter too. So
but going back to the whole defensive backs and how we feel about their depth, I could see them maybe going and getting someone, but it's got to be someone that they probably really like because I just feel like they're just more confident in what they have internally. Because they've been that type of team for a long time. They don't go outside the organization for like these cornerbacks that get released or these safeties that get released.
So let me ask you guys this question, because do you truly think that they make a move? Like, from how we're shaping up.
Do you mean like for the defensive backs, or do they make a move?
The whole team. Do you think they make a move to like sign somebody else and then cause somebody else to not make this team? Because that's how it's shaping up. I mean, if we do go out and get somebody else, you're going to force somebody else off this team.
I think we see at least one.
Darcy, what'd you say?
I can't see it. The Chiefs are like, when they have their guys, they got them. I feel like we would have done something to address the needs earlier than right now.
See, and I kind of agree with that too, because for a while that safety market was looking like, man, the Chiefs should jump in on this and upgrade their third safety spot. I remember Anthony Harris was out there. A lot of really solid safeties were out there. They didn't pick him up. I remember defensive end Jadeveon Clowney was still a free agent. Alden Smith was still a free agent. Melvin Ingram was still out there.
Have you seen that video of Jadeveon Clowney like going up against the
going
bag
through the bags, yeah, and just
the
putting in
bags.
no effort. But they just let those guys sit, and I'm like, why aren't they getting in on this? So Darcy, you're probably going to end up being right, maybe, but I do think
you're probably going to end up, well, maybe being right.
Because here's the thing, I think here's where I'm kind of indifferent. I think we see the Chiefs make a move, but it's going to be them shipping out one of their own guys. But I don't know if they get like a legit player in return for any of those guys. That's where I'm kind of like torn.
Yeah. Oh, I guess I didn't think about like the trade aspect. That might be a thing. I just can't see them being like, oh, there's somebody that hit the market in free agency that they're like, oh, we got to get him. So maybe via trade, sure, but not free agency wise.
Yeah, but no, I do agree that they're probably mostly confident in all the guys that they have.
Yeah.
Like, because I'm seeing some of these guys pop up. Like, would you guys be – and it's crazy because, like, we're seeing Anthony Hitchens pop up on a potential cut list.
Yeah, I've seen him everywhere, but I think he's one of those guys that other teams think we might get rid of, but we as Chiefs fans know they're not getting rid of it.
He's a lock. He's a lock.
And see, like Josh Jackson from Green Bay, they keep saying that Green Bay is, like, willing to cut Josh Jackson.
Well, they traded him to the Giants already.
Yeah,
he's on the Giants now.
Yeah, so like if he was a contingent cut list person, like who's else that's going to be out there that's like that stature that could end up falling in that class? Like I just personally, if another potential first round guy like Mike Hughes, DeAndre Baker pops up, I don't think Travarius Ward personally has earned enough to show that he deserves a starting spot. And I think he would be more of a rotational guy that they would potentially go out and get a Josh Jackson to do that type of thing. And like, that's just me personally. But I mean, I think that there's a lot of roles that are going to be put in place this year. And we've talked about it. You know, this is Spag's third year in this defense, and he's going to start interchanging those defensive linemen, similar like he had Justin Tuck, Jason Pierre-Paul, and Michael Strahan, you know, standing up, you know, down in the 3-point stance, like doing all kinds of crazy stuff, coming off of different edges. I think that happens, and they're going to be more versatile at the DB spot just because of that too. Like, I mean, how many times did we see L'Jarius Sneed come flying off the edge last year and just blow up the quarterback because that's what they had planned, or Rashad Fenton even? I mean, there's so many guys, and I think that there's just a scheme. And so I'd be surprised if we don't. I want us to make a move just because I don't think like Demarcus Robinson has solidified a spot. I don't think that he's a guarantee, no. But if those guys don't pop up and they're not there, then Demarcus makes this team. But I think he's one of those guys that, hey, so-and-so is cut. We want this guy. Demarcus, you're out of here.
See, this is why I'm all over the place, is because that's kind of what I want to happen, Lucas, but I'm just like, well, my own Chiefs fan knows that the Chiefs aren't going to do that. But I don't know, man, because I would, if there's a receiver out there good enough that's better than Demarcus Robinson, I would love for the Chiefs to be like, hey, D-Rob, see ya, and it's whoever, like Sterling Shepard, like I suggested earlier, just hypothetically.
Yeah.
But
because I'm just going to use an example. Let's say like an Allen Lazard from Green Bay gets cut. Would you take Lazard over Demarcus Robinson?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, and there's so many guys that are like that are.
I'd take Cornell Powell over Robinson. That's just me. Like, genuinely, I think you know how I feel about this. Like,
yeah, I just think that they're like, my personal take, and I'll wrap it up, but I just don't think that I think the Chiefs will surprise in a way that people are like, holy smokes, they actually did it, but then it's going to have good intentions. Like, I think DeMarcus is obviously good friends with that entire group, but when all's said and done, we've heard multiple times he can't run, north. He runs south often. Dave Tobe is coming out and saying stuff against him. Like, I don't think that these things are happening just because, like, I think they're letting him know. And, like, who's to say that, I think that there's somebody that's going to pop up that the Chiefs are going to be interested in, and DeMarcus is going to be potentially that guy. Just because maybe it's Marcus Kemp, but I don't know. I'm just excited for tomorrow. 53 tomorrow.
Yeah, I agree. I was just about to say that I'm excited too because we've been talking about all these different scenarios and stuff, and it's just like, well, yeah, I could see them doing that, or I could not see them doing that. There's so many directions they could go, so we'll just have to see.
Mm-hmm. I don't have anything else.
Yeah, one thing I did want to just clarify before we wrap up. Gary Dieter isn't making this team, right? Like his career has run its course. Like he's not on the practice squad. He's not going to make the team. Is that finally going to happen?
I could see him coming back like mid-season, honestly. But he's not making the
like
team.
one of those CJ Spiller type guys.
Yeah,
I think that's it. I think he's either a Chief or he's not anybody.
Yeah, no, I've said it before. They've cut and released him.
Because it's the same with Marcus Kemp. Marcus Kemp is either a Chief or he's not.
Yeah, the Chiefs have a lot of guys like that. But, man, I'm just sitting here thinking, what if Gary Dieter miraculously makes the team somehow still? But that's all I got.
Honestly, if that happened, he doesn't deserve to be on the team. But I can also see it from a standpoint of we got to keep Patrick Mahomes happy. And if that is having Gary Dieter on the team, all right. You know what I mean? Like,
I don't know, man. Like at this point, it's like, Pat, you've got to have a friend that's better at football than Gary Dieter.
Yeah. Can't you be good friends with like better players?
Devontae Adams.
Yeah, I'm best friends with Devontae. Get Devontae. Yeah, that'd be awesome.
Yeah, we'll have to see. I don't know, Lucas. You look pretty like focused right now. Is there someone you're looking at that you want to mention before we wrap up?
Jalen Smith.
We'll see.
I accidentally clicked on this Cowboys and it went me down the black hole. So I was looking real quick. I know this is way off topic, but they have Micah Parsons, Keanu Neal, who they're bringing over from the Falcons, Leighton Vander Esch, then Jalen Smith, then Jabril Cox. I don't know. It may not be the Chiefs, obviously, because he's still owed a decent amount of money because he signed like a 6-year deal. But I think Jalen Smith is going to be on the move just because – or they were showboating and flashing Leighton Vander Esch because he's literally as fragile as a number 2 pencil, and maybe they're trying to trade him. So I don't know. But there's a lot, guys. There really is. Like, I mean, we're seeing guys that could get cut that we're not even on the bubble about or even have any idea that could get cut. And we're like, who the hell is that? And they sign him and then come to find out he's like a L'Jarius Sneed or something. So it's going to be very, very interesting to see how tomorrow goes because we know there's those certain guys that are going to get cut like Clemens and some of those other ones. But man, maybe somebody else like Tim Ward and maybe a few Alex Okafor both get cut. And then we're going after a D end. I mean, there's so many. I mean, those guys are constantly working right now, so I'm excited.
Yeah, me too. I think we'll go ahead and wrap it up there. Hopefully we get some good news tomorrow to talk about because I'm just as excited as Lucas is, and I know Michael is too because there's just so many different directions they can go. There's so many other players that we're probably not thinking of right now just because we don't follow some of those other teams as closely, and someone big is about to get cut that we don't know. But all of that being said, make sure you subscribe to the Kingdom Crew podcast. You can find it on all platforms, including here on YouTube.
Hopefully, yeah, I was going to say YouTube should be up now as well.
Yep, and Michael's working on that. And speaking of Michael, make sure you go subscribe to him at KC Sports Report and subscribe to Lucas on the Beat of KC. But with all that being said, we're going to head out, and we'll catch you guys on the other side of Cutdowns. Peace.
See ya.